Hi, everybody. Welcome to Reader Questions number 16. I didn't think I'd ever get this far in, but people keep asking questions. This week's questions both come from the Facebook fan page. We'll start with the ones from Alan. Alan says, although you keep a dream book, as I believe many writers do, I mentioned that in the last video, how much do you pick up from writing or conversation and think, I've just got to use that line? That happens an awful lot. I actually, in addition to the book that I keep by me when I am sleeping, in my back pocket whenever I go anywhere, I have this, which is it's an 85-cent notebook inside a little fancy thing, and it's taken on a very interesting curve as a result of where it is stored. I've had them tons over the years. But the thing is, I have a hard time listing them now because once I put them in the book, I kind of forget about them until I read them again. But a few lines I've heard in my life that I decided had to go into a book and eventually did. One of them is in the book that I just finished revising today, and that is a quote from a friend of mine. If you're going to do something wrong, do it right. I think it's a fantastic sentiment, so it's put in the mouth of a character that is essentially based on him. Also, there's a line in Free Wrench that is a twisted quote from my brother Mike, so this is an interesting little anecdote for you. The line is, you don't need class when you've got a monkey toe. And this is in the book in reference to her using a tool called a monkey toe to hit someone in the face, and someone else claimed, I thought you were classier than that, and produced a line, you don't need class when you've got a monkey toe. The actual line comes from my actual life. My older brother, when he picks something up with his foot, he refers to it as monkey toe. I used my monkey toe to pick it up. And someone accused him of having no class, and he assured them, you don't need class when you've got a monkey toe. So that had to go in the book, and the fact that I created an entire tool within the book just so they could use that line. So yeah, I'm very dedicated to using good lines. Another question was, do you have any favorite lines that you wish you'd written? Half of the stuff that comes out of Willy Wonka's mouth from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, keeping in mind that he's usually quoting someone else, but stuff like a little nonsense now and then, cherished by the wisest men, we are the music makers, we are the dreamers of the dreams, which I think was my yearbook quote. Candy is dandy, but liquor is quicker. This is a line in a children's movie. Candy is dandy, but liquor is quicker. So, very educational film. Also, there's a line in the book My Side of the Mountain. This is a book, if you've not read it, it's when I was growing up, was one of my favorites. It's about a little kid who learns to live in the wilderness. And throughout the book, he's eating random things and trying to compare what they taste like, to describe to you, the reader, what they taste like. And then toward the end of the book, he gets to have fried chicken, and he says, I like chicken, it tastes just like chicken. And I, for some reason, loved that line. I laughed out loud when I was reading it. So, tons of lines. Also, just take any paragraph from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's going to have 2 sentences I wish I wrote. But any lines I've written that I'm particularly proud of. Again, I have a hard time holding on to these things. Once I write, it's on the page and therefore no longer in my head, but I looked up a few. Unfortunately, wisdom and happiness are old enemies. Where one can be found, the other seldom lingers. I like that line, but it's essentially just a very long and wordy rewording of the phrase, ignorance is bliss. So I can't really take credit for that. Also, anything that Carter says. Basically, if I ever come up with a really good snarky line, I just give it to Carter. So you get things like, it's easy to think outside the box when you aren't smart enough to know where the box is. I'm proud of stupid lines like that. So those are those. And he also asks, do any of your fans have favorite lines? So do you have any favorite lines from my books? If so, let me know, because that'll make me feel good. I got some more questions here. These are from Chad, also from the Facebook fan page. So I just finished Temporal Contingency. Gotta know how long until the next book in the series. It's gonna be a while. I haven't started writing it yet. I'm pretty sure I know what it's gonna be about, but I haven't started writing it yet, and there might be a few other things in the pipeline ahead of them because let's face it, you guys don't know, although if you're on my newsletter, you've gotten a glimpse of this. I have a pipeline a mile long, and there's at least a dozen things in there that I started and got some percentage of the way through and then never finished. So I really need to finish some of those, and I'm thinking my next project, once I wrap this up, once I wrap the Redemption of Desmarais up, I think I'm going to have to go through and find some of those little half projects and finish them up just so they're just not sitting there wasting my time. So I don't know when the next sci-fi book is, but not before next year. Also, says I should get mass-produce the Squee from the Cabinet of Awesomeness. If you didn't see the Cabinet of Awesomeness video, watch last week's video. More on that later. And another question, is there any chance in the future that we might get to see novels that take us on adventures with individuals of the Big Sigma world? That might happen, and here's why. Here's a little bit of how the sausage is made. When I release books in a series, here's the sequence. I release the first book. If people like it, I release a second one. Once the second one comes out, the third one is more or less a foregone conclusion. I try to write at least groups of 3. Once the third book comes out, I'll often make the first book free so that people can sort of, have an easy entry into the series. And once the fourth book comes out, I like to collect the first 3 books into a collection. Now, it's only happened once before, but you'll note that Temporal Contingency is the 4th book in the sci-fi series. So that means I can now make a collection of the first 3 books. Except just collecting the first 3 books isn't my style. I vastly prefer to throw at least something new in there, so that would imply that I'm going to gather together the character interviews probably, but also I would probably write a couple of short stories just to sort of pad it out and have additional stuff so that it's worth buying even if you've already read these stories. And I don't usually force my dedicated readers to buy the anthology just to get the short stories. Usually you'll get those as newsletter perks. Yet another good reason to be on my newsletter. So, now that there's 4 books, there will probably be a collection, and that collection will probably have some short stories with independent adventures of certain characters. So, keep your eyes open for that. And that concludes the questions we got, so now a little bit of housekeeping. First off, speaking of Temporal Contingency, if you haven't gotten it, please get it. If you have gotten it and finished reading it, please leave a review. Reviews are very helpful, and I would very much enjoy to know what you thought of the books. Leave them wherever you like, but please leave them. Next, Redemption of Desmarais is, as I mentioned, almost done being revised. I have 3 more scenes to write. I'll probably get them done tomorrow. So that's moving closer to completion. And finally, on the subject of doodads and whatnot, mass-producing Squee. I can't make a Squee figurine because they're very expensive to buy one, and they're very, very expensive to buy a bunch. So I talked to the sculptor of the Squee figurine. Now, this is figurines, not plushes. Well, plushes are another story. The plush saga is not over. But I talked to the creator of the Squee figurine, and she also makes pendants that are about palm-sized. And those might be economical for her to mass produce. So it's either going to be Min or Squee. And if you think you'd like to buy, in fact, here's a picture of a panda pendant that she made and a rat pendant that she made. Those will give you an idea of what you might be getting if you were to get, say, a Min or Squee pendant. If you think you'd want one of those, please let me know, because they're only really going to happen if people want them. Because I sure as heck am not going to be able to sell them to strangers. It's going to go to fans, so you got to let me know. If you do like them, comment, let me know, and heck, if enough people are interested, then they will be released. That concludes all of that. As always, if you have any more questions, leave them in the comments, and I will answer them.